So I just watched the newest Michael Jackson movie, and I've got to say it's really an impressive film. I really enjoyed it. So here are the parts that really stood out to me in the Michael film. Well, to start off with, throughout the entire film, Michael's father looms over him as this figure that imposes his will upon him. He was almost made out to be the villain. The movie starts off with Michael's childhood. He was mega talented as a kid, and Michael would get spanked if he misbehaved. I remember that in the audience, in the seats that I was in, the seat vibrated every time he got spanked by his father. So it was almost like the seats were spanking us, the audience. So when he was a kid and he was performing in the studio, all the producers and the managers and everyone that was around him kept telling him to not move so much while he was singing. I guess it was his natural tendency to dance as he sang. One of the parts that stood out to me was the nose job that Michael had, uh, because his father used to call him Big Nose when he was younger, so I think he took that to heart. He wanted to look perfect for his audience. Another part that stood out for me was when he was on tour with his brothers and his skull was burned because of one of the stage lights. It took a lot of bravery for him to demand to be on MTV as a black artist. You have to think about the era, like the 1980s, where racism was still a thing in America. They also touched upon his vitiligo and how he had to use special creams for it. One of my favorite parts was when he got the chimpanzee as a pet, and I forgot the name of the chimpanzee. Was it Bobos? So anyway, what I noticed was that Michael really liked childlike things because it reminded him of the childhood that he never had, because he was always performing from a young age. For Thriller, he demanded that they show the full body of the dancers and for the dancers to be synchronized like a school of fish. One of the first things I noticed was that his nephew, Jafar Jackson, looks exactly like him back when he was performing Thriller in the Thriller era. They looked exactly alike, which is a good thing for the film. It makes it more realistic. For a good chunk of the film, Michael wanted independence from his brothers. He wanted to go on his own as a solo artist. I think this was his natural evolution as an artist. It was part of growing up. Another part that stood out was when he was in the hospital because his skull was burned and his father was in the waiting room, and he was basically asking the doctors, will he be able to perform again? In Neverland, he even had a giraffe. Not only a chimpanzee, but a giraffe. So it must have been fun living there. I think the film portrayed his life in a good light and in a realistic light. Everything seemed pretty accurate. If I had to give this film a rating, it would be an 8.5 out of 10. I think it would have been a more powerful film if they included Michael's entire life in the film, not just up till 1988, which is when the film ended. It looks like there's going to be a sequel, so stay tuned for that. In the sequel, we'll probably see the vitiligo advance and him getting a much lighter skin tone. The movie also had great music like Thriller, Beat It, and all the Jackson 5 hits. It was really enjoyable to listen to all of Michael Jackson's hits. So the movie, I don't know if you would consider it a musical or a drama, especially since it included so many of Michael's songs. So yeah, the reason it got an 8.5 out of 10 is mainly because I wanted it to include more of Jackson's later years. Besides that, it was great acting by Jafar Jackson in his first major role as an actor. Who better to play Michael Jackson than his own nephew? The kid actor that played Michael as a kid also did a fantastic job. He was very charming in his role. We'll see if the Oscars considers this film as a candidate for Best Picture. So from Neverland to being spanked by his dad to getting the independence from his brothers that he always wanted, this movie touched upon a lot of things in Michael's life that shaped him as a person. Remember to subscribe, like, leave a comment, and help support our channel. Thank you. Until next time.